All right, we'll get started. Sorry, you caught me singing there. That some people think that was Michael Bublé, but that was actually me. So it's embarrassing. I know it's not very good. How are you doing today, Flo?
You were singing?
No, I'm just
I'm
kidding.
very good,
I'm
thank you.
just
How
kidding.
about you?
No,
How are you doing?
I have a terrible singing voice. I'm doing quite well. I'm doing pretty well. I kind of a funky like last 4 days. I had to go in for some tests and some blood work. I was having like fainting spells. I don't know. I feel kind of like a wuss. But yeah, I used to have a condition when I was a teenager that I had this thing called hemochromatosis where my iron gets too high in my blood and it makes me pass out. And I think maybe that was happening again. So yeah, over some family Christmas dinners, I almost passed out. Uh, it turns out I'm okay, but just had to take a few days off and kind of recharge the batteries a bit. Still feeling a little funky, but getting back to it. So yeah, kind of weird. I like to pride myself on my health, so being a little out of whack is uncharacteristic for me. But yeah, other than that, I'm good. How about you? Everything staying healthy, staying sharp for the holiday season?
Yes, yes. I'm good. I'm having fun with the now that Bitcoin is kind of a happy topic again. It's easier with the holiday season.
Yeah, absolutely. Are you starting to get text messages and emails from friends asking about Bitcoin, or is that phase not hit yet?
Yeah, it started already. And some friends, I made a I don't know if it was a mistake or not, but I kind of, at the beginning, I used to orange peel too hard on people. And some friends didn't buy until it was like the top of last bull run. And now they've been waiting for Bitcoin to catch up. And I don't know if they're going to sell or not, but yeah, I'm happy that the friendship remain and they don't hold it against me, but they weren't happy about their investment.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I think that that's always the hard part is when people got orange pilled just enough to buy, but they didn't have like a really strong conviction with Bitcoin. So that's always
Yeah.
kind of the hard part is when people are like they're totally factoring it only based off of the dollar value of it, and so you don't really get vindicated until the price goes to new all-time highs or at least higher than where it was when they originally bought. But yeah, that's one of those things where they kind of blame it on you. You're like, hey, they say, hey, you told me about this Bitcoin thing, you told me to get into it, but they also didn't do enough homework to recognize that they should have gone beyond just the price and the speculation, that sort of thing. So hopefully this time around, people will do a bit more homework, and I think perhaps there's gonna be a lot of attention on Bitcoin from the mainstream. So hopefully some of that the press that Bitcoin gets will be more than just price and speculation, because you think about it at a certain point. Um, People like we get bored of talking about Bitcoin price after a while. And the reason why we're probably talking about it now is because the market's just finally starting to go up. But say if we're going to be in a bull run for the next year, 18 months, 2 years, whatever that however long that bull run happens to be, price is only going to be able to be talked about for so long. Mainstream TV shows are going to look for a different angle. They're going to try and look around the corner and, oh, what's the thing that shows that we're cutting edge and we're forward looking? So hopefully they start to invite on the Robert Breedloves and the Natalie Brunells and those types of people to hopefully, and hopefully somebody like a Knut's Fan Home or somebody like that can really bring it beyond the dollar value of Bitcoin. That's what I hope, or maybe they even bring you on, Flo. Maybe they'll bring you on to talk about it.
I think that no kidding, like the artist role might be different this time. I'm seeing more and more artists doing Bitcoin related amazing works, and they might start getting seen outside the Bitcoin space. I don't know, but yeah, I don't think this bull run will be exactly the same as last time for sure, and I'm very like expectant, like waiting to see what happens. But yeah, I hope that this time is more focused on what people are building and more than just the price. That was a bit disappointing, I guess, for like normies. At least here I live in Chile, where I live. People doesn't know anything about Bitcoin. You're like the nerd, weird person who's talking about Bitcoin all the time. Well, these friends who bought, I've been talking to them like since the price was way lower, so they didn't hate me because they knew I mean, I started talking to them before it was super expensive, but I don't know what's going to happen with them. Like I'm always telling them like, don't just sell, try to study, and they're like, no, this doesn't interest me. It's so weird. Like I think this is on a base layer of our society and should be like relevant to anyone. That's how I see it. But then not really. Like people sometimes don't care even if this is something like really important in their lives, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Now, do you think that this bull run or this market is going to be one of adoption, or do you think it's going to kind of be like last time? Is it more speculation? Maybe a few more people waking up and learning about Bitcoin, or do you think it's going to be Bitcoin businesses, the parallel economy, people starting to transact in Bitcoin? Do you think it's that, or what's your take on that?
I think it's going to be extreme. Like everything is going to be, I don't know, like big and crazy. I think that we're in this then they fight you stage, and that's we don't know how these big entities are going to behave in this kind of wars or call it whatever. Like there is so many people with so much power that doesn't benefit from Bitcoin, and actually like they have so much to lose. I think we're starting to see that like this Elizabeth Warren stuff, and I suspect it's going to get crazier. But this gives a lot of attention to Bitcoin, so I think at the end it will be positive and might motivate people to learn. So I'm hoping this will run to be a more to attract people in a more deep way, you know, even if they're noobs, like more than just the price.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. Now, do you spend Bitcoin, or are you a strict hodler?
I'm a true hodler, so true hodlers don't have fiat lying around. So of course I spend Bitcoin. There's no other way for me.
Wow, okay, that's a different level of conviction. I love that, because that's funny, because I'm somebody that's always talking about how we should spend our Bitcoin. And some people say, "Oh, well, I don't want to spend my Bitcoin because it's going to go up in value." But if you're completely on a Bitcoin standard, I never really thought about that, because I'm not completely on a Bitcoin standard. I spend Bitcoin every day. I save in Bitcoin. But for my business, I have some businesses and things that we can't pay all of our business expenses in Bitcoin. So I'm in a hybrid state right now. Our business accepts Bitcoin, but that there is beauty in being completely on a Bitcoin standard, because then, yes, like you said, you have no other option. How long have you been doing that for? How long have you been a true hodler?
Um, I I actually started this year. I mean, I have a bit of help. It's not like maybe I live. I moved back with my parents for this year because I wanted to start doing my art again. I had to stop because of jobs, and then I decided that I was going to wait until I will look for jobs that are Bitcoiner jobs that pay in Bitcoin. And that started to happen this year. I'm working, as you know, well, with Panties for Bitcoin. And I was also working with Lobby's Bitcoin, the account. And I'm giving all my time the rest of my time to work on my art. I've shown some pieces in some conferences this year, and I'm really excited for next year too. So it's kind of I'm kind of cheating because I can pay my stuff, for example, like my living or whatever I could need. It's like I'm paying to my family. It's not like I'm paying taxes in Bitcoin, you know. But that's the hope. Like I'm hoping to we're looking for new places to learn more. Where could one actually like live in a full Bitcoin standard? And that's for me. That's yeah what I'm aiming to. And for people who doesn't want to do that, still I think that using Bitcoin. Um, it's good in so many ways. Like spend your Bitcoin, it doesn't mean that you are not a hodler. Like you can replace if you have fiat and you can pay someone with Bitcoin, you can immediately use that fiat to buy more Bitcoin. So for you, it doesn't really. It's not really like you're losing those Bitcoin. Um, and you are making like every or Bitcoin companies grow, and with that grow, I think the whole space is growing. There's more possibilities for new people to know this and enter a space, because one of the first questions that I think people ask when you're talking about Bitcoin is like, yes, but what is the use case for this thing? Like, why do I want that? And you're explaining like, of course, to preserve your wealth and whatever, but they want to have a daily use. I think yeah, lost a bit my track of thought there, but yeah, I uh, I think it's important to use Bitcoin, and I'm going to try to move to the fully Bitcoin standard as hard as I can for the next years.
Well, you're a pioneer and you're leading the way because yeah, I think there's very few people on the face of the planet that are 100% on a Bitcoin standard like you are, and so it starts with one and then it grows. So you're at the forefront of that. Now you're in. I don't want to give your whereabouts specifically, but you're in Latin America, correct?
Yes, no problem. I live in Chile.
Okay, all right, yeah. I knew you were in Chile. I just didn't want to throw that out there unnecessarily. Okay, cool. So what we all were, I think most Bitcoiners are aware of, Argentina and El Salvador and what's going on there, being pretty positive on a on a Bitcoin front. What is Chile? What is their temperature when it comes to Bitcoin?
No.
What are they like there?
Yeah, it's harder here. My theory is that Chile has had like more stable kind of past, like in the last years. I mean, like in the recent past. This stability has made people more lazy, I guess. Like when you have the privilege, like more financial privilege and stuff like that, you don't look for alternatives. I think, and I was like lucky enough that my whole family is full Bitcoiner, and my dad works for a German company, so we always had this thing of moving money around to live. Like we always had to deal with the banks and the conversion rates and all that kind of stuff. And my dad, when he found out about Bitcoin, like of course we the first time we didn't pay much attention. It was like my internet magic money. And then when he did, he started studying it. And he realized that he could bring his salary from Europe to Chile in like way less steps, not talking to anyone, like no one, like he had to give these calls to the banks and whatever. And uh, he also kind of gave himself like a 10% raise only by changing from the regular bank system to Bitcoin. and it was much easier for us to like yes to bring the salary to live here. So we are like very weird in that regard, because I think we started with Bitcoin for its use case, and then the whole family started studying. I'm very, very lucky. My brother is a software engineer, so he was very interested in all this technical stuff. And yeah, because I'm being an artist, I don't know if I would have found about Bitcoin. I'm not very technical. Like technology hates me a bit. My art is very analog. Like I do everything by hand, and um, and then we came across this, and we started like studying as family, like in the family dinners and everything. And but that's not like the common thing here. I've seen much more adoption in the other countries, and besides, Chile is not that big in terms of population. So Argentina is far way bigger, and maybe that's something that has to do with it. I don't know. And I've seen like the last the president we have now, and the politicians and everyone is like they're in this first stage, I will say, like Bitcoin is a scam, and the only thing that you hear about Bitcoin in the news is this thing is for scams and for drug dealers, and how the violence and the trafficking of stuff has grown in Chile, and this is all linked with cryptocurrencies, and they don't know the difference of cryptocurrency or Bitcoin. And so I think we're like very, very way behind other countries in Latin America.
Okay, yeah, interesting. Yeah, I thanks for the breakdown on that. I wasn't familiar with Chilean politics and and that sort of thing. Do you think that a positive movement from Argentina, like if Milei turns the Argentinian government or government, not just the government, he's turning the government around, but the economy, if he turns it around, if their economy starts booming, if El Salvador is goes from a relatively poor nation to a relatively rich nation in a short period of time, do you think that type of thing would have enough to impact a country like Chile, just being seeing a Latin American neighbor turn around that way, or do you think is the political environment just so entrenched there that seeing a successful government somewhere else adopt a Bitcoin standard, that would that not even have an impact on the Chilean government? What's your thought on that? I know you're not part of the Chilean government, but just as a Chilean citizen, what's your take on that?
Yeah, I think it's Latin America is very, very weird sometimes. Like it's hardcore in their beliefs, and I've seen many people here like they see that El Salvador is so doing so much better. People are like now they can go safely walking outside, and they're like no, because they're violating every human right, and they're seeing like talking about it like this is a negative thing, and this is extreme right, this is whatever. They also, I also hear that kind of things about Javier Milei, like there is not a separation in their head, like someone could be a libertarian, like for real, and there's not that has to be extreme right mindset. And I think that's like propaganda that people are using not to allow like like those ideas to grow. And in Chile, well, the thing is that we in the last I don't know 30 years. Um, the country has grown a lot, like where there is less poverty, many things, but people don't seem to see it, that like is no, this is too much inequity. And this is when you measure it, like it's growing, but also only for rich people or something like that. Statistics say otherwise, like we have a lot of like a huge percentage of the population is scholarized, which wasn't that way 30 years ago. And many things like that, like you can measure it that it has improved, but people doesn't feel it, and I don't know how that is going to be managed. And yeah, I think that still there is so much propaganda, and I think that Chileans are also like very stubborn. We are very stubborn, so I think that the success cases must will have to be very very big for people to really accept them. But I also am a very I am optimistic. Like I see that we have done like great in the past, and people want to work, want to live better, a better life. So I'm hoping that like even though they're trying to manipulate this information and trying to manipulate these opinions, I'm hoping that people will see through that, and will start to choose something that's for themselves. What I love about Bitcoin is that it has nothing to do with any government, because I don't trust any government. I know we like Bukele, and we may like Javier Milei, but for me they're still politicians, so I would never fully trust them, um, and I wouldn't encourage that. So I'm hopeful for the future only because I know that Bitcoin exists, but it's not going to be in Chile. I don't see it like in the near future. I see a hard way first. Like um, I'm hoping not, but I think people will suffer like a lot before they turn and realize that there is another way.
Yeah, fascinating. I want to open up to anybody in the audience as well. I'm gonna circle back to this question. This is for Flo, obviously, as well. But if anybody in the audience, this is just an open conversation, so anybody's welcome to jump in. Feel free to request to speak. Um, the next question I want to kick out to you guys, Flo, and the audience is, what's the worst part about fiat? For those who don't know, I'm currently writing a book called The Bitcoin Social Layer, and we're talking about it's essentially an analysis of the fiat social layer, which is you can kind of make that whatever you want. You can be It's not just fiat currency, but it's everything that comes along with that. It's the structures, the societal structures that are created around fiat. And so, what are the problems with the fiat social layer? Misaligned incentives, all sorts of things. I don't want to even like put words in anybody's mouth. So if anybody has any good insights on what makes fiat so bad, whether it's the currency, whether it's fiat currency or whether it's the fiat social layer, I would love some insight because the book is analyzing, yes, the difference between the fiat social layer and the Bitcoin social layer. What are the things that a Bitcoin social layer fixes that the fiat social layer has broken? One of the things I want to circle back to, Flo, and then feel free if you want to, do me the privilege of answering that question. That actually is helping me in my research with anybody that comes up with some answers. But one of the things you mentioned was kind of a hesitation to trust Javier Milei, a hesitation to trust Bukele, which I think there's two kinds of politicians, and obviously this is an oversimplification, but there's two kinds of politicians. There's politicians who know that once they've got your vote, they'll have it forever. And there's politicians that know they have to continue to earn your vote. And I think that people that like Bukele, people that like Millet are very high information voters, uh, very active people politically as far as actually voting, but also going beyond that, talking about sharing their opinions. The Bitcoin community will turn on a politician that just because they're a champion of Bitcoin, but if they're participating in all sorts of human rights violations, or if they don't uphold the basic tenets of a Bitcoin standard, I think people would turn against that president or that politician pretty quickly. And so I think that hopefully that's some of the check and balance that we have with these people who are championing the Bitcoin cause. Is Javier Milei knows that if he gets in there and in 2 years he has just continued to grow the government and not pushed for fairer economic systems, fairer financial systems, that his support worldwide is going to wane. And I think that's the only reason why they were able to overcome a socialist government in Argentina, was because they had such robust worldwide support. There was people not just supporting. I mean, worldwide, it doesn't matter that much if you have support, but when you have enough support for a candidate, he was getting financial support. He was getting donations from Bitcoiners. He was getting donations from Bitcoin lobbying groups and things like that. So anyways, just I wanted to camp out on that caveat for a minute, that there's those two kinds of politicians, the one that feels like they have to earn your vote and the one that doesn't. And so I think that that's important. So going back to my previous question, and again, this is open for anybody in the audience, but Flo, I'll kick it to you first. What's the worst part about the fiat social layer? And take that wherever you want.
Okay. I don't know if it's the worst, but it's something that I really, really dislike. And from my point of view, I think fiat culture has stolen us beauty. I think that, and this is more than just a superficial way. Like if you go down the streets and all the buildings are ugly, and it's like the way that the city is being built is ugly, and everything is like unfriendly. I think it really affects our daily lives. I see this more in like art, and art like in the art space, it's like if you're doing something beautiful, then it's not smart. Like you can't do both. You have to have or smart or beauty. That's for me, it's like stupid. But I'm like, I know that this trend kind of started, or I think they wanted to democratize beauty. They said the beauty is only for the rich. We're going to democratize beauty. This is a very simplified way of saying this. In this process, we lost beauty at all. And I think that this is a very important difference, and you can see it in everything, like in how people are dressing now. When you compare to before. I know trends change, but the effort, the now it's like like it's good to be awful. No, how do you say it? Like ugliness. And again, it's like a statement for intelligence. And uh, I'm fighting against that. I'm trying to do my art, and everything I do, I try to add the most beauty I can, because I think that we do deserve beauty. Humans are capable of recognizing beauty. Even though you can like something that's not objectively beautiful, we are capable of recognizing when something is beautiful. So it's not just cultural. I think that that's a lie that they have built up upon us, and now telling you that this is not, like, there's no way to define beauty. And maybe we cannot explain it with words, but we can recognize it, and a kid can recognize it. You put a 3-year-old boy and ask him if something is beautiful, and he will be able to tell you. Like, there's not much need of background there, or like a study in things, I don't know. So yeah, I think that's not the worst, but one really, really sad thing that I really dislike about fiat culture. Uh-huh.
Well, I think it's actually really insightful. So, part of the research that I just did a deep dive on, how does a society devolve into a fiat social layer? How do we go from being perfectly normal and amicable humans to adopting a system where we have top down authority? And you see this from time and time again across cultures that allow authoritarian, totalitarian types of regimes to come into power. But the really deep dive I did was on pre-Nazi Germany. And I think most Bitcoiners are familiar with Weimar Republic, but I wanted to go a little bit before that. It's like we always act like the Weimar Republic was the reason why Nazi Germany happened. And yes, that was actually a stepping stone. But there was something, Weimar Germany and hyperinflation was actually a symptom of things that were happening before that. So we think that just the hyperinflation happened and then, that led to Hitler. That was actually a symptom that led to Hitler. the things that were happening in the 1880s, the 1890s, the early 1900s were, it was a systematic, and it wasn't like the Nazis were in power and they were making this happen. There was warring factions in society that wanted to change the social structure. So there was communists, there was socialists, there was all sorts of different factions that were trying to change society. But what they were all doing was they were trying to pull society apart. And so they were doing this in the education system. They were doing this in the political system, of course. But one of the things that, going to your point about art, I didn't realize this. That's where Dada art, or Flo, I'm sure you're familiar with the term Dada art. I'm
Yeah.
Okay,
Hmm.
so I didn't realize that Dada art was so prevalent in the early 1900s. And so for those who don't know, Dada art is like this. It's like this senseless form of art. It's like unart. It's like trying to be the opposite of art, or at least that's what artists were trying to do in the early 1900s. And it's very interesting that before you see these societies blow up, or I guess more like, it's actually more apt to say they imploded. Before societies implode, one of the check marks that has to happen is their art, like you said, becomes less beautiful. Like people all of a sudden start to resent art. People start to try and make anti-beautiful things, which is crazy. But this is what always happens in the lead up to other things, other dominoes that fall that end up leading to the totalitarian regime coming in. And so I never realized that art was such an important indicator. And if you're talking about the different hills that we need to fight, that we need to defend, oh, are you willing to die on this hill? Are you willing to die on this hill? I would have never thought that art was a hill that we needed to die on, that we needed to defend, right? That we needed to battle. But it seems like it really, really is. Why do you think that that's so important for society? I mean, you hinted at it a bit, but like, why is art so important for society, and to see beautiful things? And I guess on the flip side of that, why is senseless art? Why are things that aren't beautiful? Why are they so destructive for society? How could they lead to a fiat social layer? What is the relationship there?
I don't know if I have this truth, but I would think it's one more way to control people. Art, it's about freedom, like freedom of your mind. You do whatever you want in front of that piece of paper or rock or whatever material you use. You probably, if you well, in the history of art, you will try to do something like this. Takes time and it's hard to make, and also you will try to do something that's meaningful, I think. And that can go in many ways. Like you can do something for God or for your family or for anything that it's meaningful to that person at that moment. And I guess that if you're trying to like put people down, like engage them, and you have to break them from these bigger things, I guess. Like I've seen, I don't know, in Russia. They were exploring so many things. They were basically inventing design, and I don't remember like the name. What when these were like the vanguards and everything, and they were so innovative. I don't know if beautiful would be the word, but it was they were trying everything out, and then it was forbidden. So artists only could do paintings and of the leaders or how do you call it, like nature. So they couldn't explore anything. So you are limiting their way of thinking, the way they are, uh, yeah, producing. And also, I think that art is something that can shape what the imagination of a society looks like. So if you can put that in a box, then you might be trying to trap the society's imagination, I guess, something like that. It's maybe like a tool of control. One more.
Yeah, that's fascinating. And you think about it, a really good piece of art, it inspires awe. and it makes you, one, sit in amazement, but two, it almost makes you want to be better, right? It makes you want to go out and do something impressive. When we were doing the Bitcoin's Got Talent last week, and it was, as a very non artsy person myself. I have very little artistic ability. But when I see artists do things, you were one of the artists. There were some musicians. There were people that did spoofy videos and stuff. But seeing people being good at something, it makes me want to go and work harder at the things that I'm good at or that I'm trying to get good at. So yeah, I think that a society that wants people to be in a box, it doesn't want you to dream and wonder and to be in awe of things that are beautiful. So yeah, very well said, Florency. I mean, that's very powerful.
Yeah, I'm also thinking that I what I sorry, I lost my idea.
Oh, this is
What's
okay.
the last thing you said?
Inspiring awe.
Yeah, no, but yeah, when you want people to be boxed and you want them to repeat the same stuff again and again, you don't want them to have, like, for example, too much free time. And when you are a creative person, like if you want to do art, the hardest part for me about being an artist is that I have this sense that I have to be working all the time. Otherwise, I feel like I'm being lazy and stuff. But to actually do the art, you need some time to do nothing. And this is really weird, but this has like a neurological explanation that creativity in your brain delves in like the same areas of when you are doing like nothing, like when you're on your most resting mode, like you're watching a movie but you're not even watching, like that, those parts of your brain that like kind of get the light, like that are working when you're like in that mode, are very associated with the parts that are being used when you're doing something creative, like when you have an idea. Like if you could study where ideas come from, you might find that they come from the same part of the brain that you use when you're doing nothing. And I have experienced that. Like I have felt that sometimes I'm pushing and pushing, and I want to do, and I want to finish the piece, or I want to do more, or I want to like I have to came up with a new idea and everything, and nothing comes out of that. But then you stop. You need that time to just like let your mind wander, and things come to you. And I think that's what people call inspiration. But I don't really like that word because I think it kind of takes out the hard part of it, like the job. But it kind of is like that. Like you need that. Like that space of nothingness. And I think that this is something for creativity in its whole. Like artists might experience it more often, like because that's the job. But I think that for everything you need creativity, like anything that humans do. I don't know, I think when we all get amazed by a new marketing campaign and we are like, oh, that's so good, that's full of creativity. The mind works in a similar way, so I think that when you want people to actually repeat them everything like they were robots, you don't really like them to be very creative, or you don't need them. Or maybe creativity is frightening to you because you think that if they get too creative, they might I don't know, like kind of take your power away from you or something like that. So I guess creativity is also a threat to this kind of governments. I don't know.
Yeah, no, this is really helping me. I'm actually sitting here taking notes as we're talking. I mean, these are thoughts that we're exercising through a lot in my writing process. This is incredibly helpful. It's funny how much. I mean, you're talking about the, you don't call it inspiration, but that process of creating art. I find it very much the same thing with writing. There's times when you're just kind of in this flow state, or this state of, it's just easy, like think words are flowing and ideas are flowing, and then there's other times where you're trying to force it. But exercising through these ideas like we're doing right now is very helpful in my writing process, so thank you, Flo. I want to kind of bring the question more directly back to you now. Um, what I mean, Bitcoiners come from all sorts of backgrounds. People, um, we have people that are different political affiliations, religious affiliations, all sorts of things. But for you, what kind of ideology or philosophy or code of ethics or religion or whatever it is, what is the philosophy that guides your life and your moral principles?
You mean like in general, like like my life?
I'm leaving it wide open, however you want to answer that.
Yeah,
But yes,
I think
that's pretty much, yeah, for your life. Like, how do you live your life? What do you what decides for you what's good and bad, and what's worth doing and not doing?
Mhm. I think it's a continuous process. Like I try to allow myself some mistakes because otherwise I think that I wouldn't grow. But I think that what I'm trying the hardest is to be consistent and to be like, if even if I make a mistake, of course I can like ask for forgiveness and all, but trying to be consistent and trying not to say one thing and do another, trying to be like truthful and in that way, also like advocating for that, like I will try and for freedom, I really don't like when people are like false. I try not to do that, and I will try for everyone to have the freedom. Like I would defend the freedom for you to say something that I don't agree with, more than for you not to say it, like free speech and things like that. I think that's like that's why I guess why I like Bitcoin so much. um, Allowing people to be individuals and not only this idea of collectives, I think.
Yeah, and it's so weird because we talk about the Bitcoin community all the time, um, and I think Bitcoiners are, uh, by and large, people that are more individualistic rather than collectivist. But there's almost this aspect where we sound like we're collectivists, right? What distinguishes Bitcoiners? Like, how are Bitcoiners individuals, and yet we're a part of a community, we're a part of an economy or a network? How can those two things be true?
I think that's it's very funny, but when you are true to yourself and you are trying to do good, like uh, at least trying to be like a kind of a good person, sort of, but you're thinking individually, like for yourself. I think you realize that what's good for you is also what's good for the other. Like if you are going to harm others, this will eventually harm yourself as well. So, in a way, individualism is not really to think only about yourself. Like it's not being selfish. I don't think so. Um, it's a way like I have my unique thoughts and I'm a person, but for me to exist in this world, I understand that we live in a society with others, and I think that at some point Bitcoiners kind of realize that too. And because I see all this ecosystem where many new brands start every day, and I don't see this hard competition. I see that much more collaboration, willingness to grow together, and to understand that if you grow, it doesn't mean that I have to go like under. Um, I think a fiat culture is does that. Like it's much easier, and instead of growing, you push the other guy down, and you just keep the same, and you might win more only because you like kind of move the competition away, but you are not doing better. You are not giving something better to your customers necessarily. I think Bitcoiners have that in mind. Like we have to give the best of ourselves. Everyone I talk to, I think, is trying to do the best with the meanings they have, like give the best quality the best service, you know. I think that's yeah, it's kind of a paradox. We end up being more of a collective, but from the importance of the individual.
Yeah, it's a weird paradox, but it makes sense, and it seems to be kind of the best format. Almost a group of people that are brought together because they have shared incentives rather than through coercion. It's they're brought together through cooperation rather than coercion, and that is a it sounds small, but it's a massive difference. People freely associating with one another. That's a really novel idea in the way that the world works. Um, so yeah, I think that yeah, you broke that down really well. I wanted to ask you too, what kind of we were just helping Panties for Bitcoin promote their Panties books and Bitcoin thing that they have going on right now. Um, I assume as a Bitcoiner, you consume a lot of Bitcoin content. What types of content do you consume? Are you a book reader? Are you a Bitcoin magazine subscriber? Do you listen to podcasts? What kind of Bitcoin content do you like, or do you not listen to Bitcoin content? You're already orange pilled, and so you've heard enough.
No, it's never enough. I really like when I'm feeling like sad or something, it's like my happy place because I feel the optimism of a better world. So I love Bitcoin podcasts. I try to hear different because different ones that sometimes I enjoy the ones that are talking about like the latest news or the latest meme. It's like kind of just for fun. I also like when people, I really like hearing the rabbit hole stories from people. I think that's fascinating. And books, I also read, but I'm a slow reader, I must confess. And most of the time, I don't end the book. Like I kind of jump from one to another, and I'm like, I have a hard time concentrating. But I love books. Like I go to these conferences, and my bags are full of books when I turn back home.
Well, I think most books are good for like the first half, anyways, and then they seem to kind of fall off. So I think I'm right there with you. There's lots of books that I don't finish. I was listening to somebody the other day, and they were like a high efficiency person, somebody that is all about making the most out of your time, that sort of thing. And she said that it's important for her that she gives herself permission to not finish a book because I think many of us feel stressed out, like, I gotta grind through this book. The first two chapters were really enlightening, but now the rest of it just feels like they're either repeating the same thing or they're not adding any new information. And so we feel like we have to finish it. The whole point of reading a book is to get a new idea and put something new in your head, right? And if the if the first half of the book does that, then that's enough, and maybe we have the permission to move on. So I'm right there with you. Some books I can get all the way through, but I'm also somebody that'll get two chapters in and then call it quits. Um, but anyways, yeah. So you and I both are big fans of Panties for Bitcoin. You are like the official spokesperson for Panties for Bitcoin. That's something new. I mean, the last couple months. Why and you, as you said at the beginning of the show, you work with a few different Bitcoin companies, but why do you find Panties for Bitcoin to be um, worth your time? Like, why are they an important enough company for you to lend your name and your time and your credibility to? Uh, when there's all sorts of things you could do.
I think that what I love about Panties for Bitcoin is that, well, when you know the story, it's like it's a lovely story. I love the idea of this family brand, um, and that they are not. Pablo is not trying something like he just woke up and wanted to do Panties for Bitcoin. Like this is something he knows. So I think that this is a look into the future. Like when they say every company will be a Bitcoin company, yeah, for me it's like when you that's what will happen, and it makes sense when I see Panties for Bitcoin. This is people who have knowledge, talent, and who like want to do something good, good quality, and who advocate for Bitcoin and what it means and the what can bring to our society. So I since I saw it, I really liked it. I also really like that it's not about the technology, even though that's so much like it's really important, and I really like that people are working for those companies, and the job is really important. I think it's just as important to have other stuff like um, and also I think it's something really fun like the marketing you can do with Panties for Bitcoin is super fun. It's like it's stimulating. I really need for my daily jobs. I need something that makes me to want to do it. You know, like otherwise, if I'm just sitting there in my desk, I don't get the ideas, or I because I want to go take pictures of the product, but the product is boring, and you're like, oh, not. Um, not having fun, you know. I can't stand that very long. And with Panties for Bitcoin, I don't see that. Like I see a fun product. I see that it's doing the job. It's a look into the future. It's fun, and I really like the family behind Panties for Bitcoin. Like when I talk to Pablo and to Silvia, like super nice people. Like I feel like we can connect in a human level.
No, absolutely. They're the sweetest people ever, and they're a absolute pleasure to talk to when you see them at the conferences. And I remember the first time that I met them in person was at Bitcoin Miami this year, and I had the booth right across from them. And I'm a first time. That was my first big conference where I actually had a booth and that sort of thing. And so they were all prepared with everything you need to run a booth. And I had like half of the stuff. So I had zip ties for my banners, but I didn't have like scissors to cut the zip ties and that sort of stuff. So I remember going over and borrowing their scissors, and they let me use the scissors. And then I was in such a hurry, I sliced my finger open like majorly. And so Pablo and his wife and his family, they're like running around trying to get me bandages and stuff. So they were so helpful, and they're busy setting up. I mean, there's like Michael Saylor's walking around the convention, and they're like almost gonna miss their chance to like show their product to Michael Saylor and Max Kaiser and these guys, because they're running around getting me a bandage for my finger. So they're so sweet. They're genuinely cool people. I suggest if anybody goes to any of the conferences this year, stop by the Panties for Bitcoin booth and talk to them, and try out the product. I can't speak to the panties other than my wife. My wife likes them and says that they're really great, high quality. The boxers, though, they're my favorite pair of boxers. I have a bunch of pairs now. I bought a bunch from the last couple conferences, and then also just from Black Friday. If you guys are Bitcoiners and you want to support a Bitcoin company, um, buy some boxers or panties for Bitcoin. It's like the easiest way to support the Bitcoin circular economy or the Bitcoin parallel economy. And you get a cool product out of it. I don't suggest supporting Bitcoin companies that aren't building or making a cool product that you want. I don't think Bitcoin companies, just because they slap a Bitcoin B on them, that you should go ahead and just support that company. If they're building something, if they have a goal to build something cool, maybe they're asking you to help support them at the beginning because their product isn't to launch yet, and you're going to do a geyser fund to help them raise funds. That's one thing. But yeah, there's going to be, especially with this next bull market, there's going to be so many grifters that come into this space that are going to say that they're Bitcoin companies that aren't really going to produce anything of value other than slapping a B on a t-shirt and then selling it to Bitcoiners. Panties for Bitcoin, they're people that live on a Bitcoin standard. They're people that operate a business on a Bitcoin standard. And so those are the types of businesses I'm really fascinated in supporting. For those that don't know, I run all the marketing for Orange Pill app. And in early 2024, we're launching the merchant section. So if you guys have it, if anybody in here has a brick and mortar location, a business, like a physical business where you accept Bitcoin, go to theorangepillapp.com/merchants, and you can sign your business up to be one of those, the first like cohort of merchants that we launch with. But I think this is going to be a massive step forward in hyper Bitcoinization. That like BTC Maps is a cool app, and we're actually going to be working with them a bit to help facilitate this. But right now, when you open Orange Pill app, you can find Bitcoiners that are near you. Like that's a really cool feature, and I use that all the time. But then there's also going to be another tab where you just click on the tab and it shows all the Bitcoin businesses that are near you. The ability to support Bitcoin brick and mortar businesses is going to have a quantum leap forward in the next couple of months. I mean, we're in this like BCAD moment of hyper Bitcoinization because we're not just going to get the effects of the bull market, we're going to get the effects of all the Bitcoin companies like Orange Pill app, like Panties for Bitcoin, like the Lightning companies that have been building, like the Geyser Fund companies, like Sovereign Energy, like Consensus Network, all these companies that have been building the entire bear market when there was no excitement around the Bitcoin price at all. But these companies were just all systems go, building, building, building. The world's going to see the fruits of that labor that has been grinding behind closed doors for the last 12 months, the last 18 months, or some of these companies for longer than that. So it's going to be one of those slowly and then suddenly moments. People are like, oh, Bitcoin is just something to buy and hold. You can't really use it. That narrative I think is going to change majorly over the next 12 months. And actually, in spite of the Bitcoin price going up, I think the Bitcoin price is going to be a distraction. I think it's going to make a lot of new people say, oh, I don't want to spend my Bitcoin because if I spend it, the price is going to go up tomorrow. Why would I spend it today? I think there's going to be so much adoption and so much building that the economy of people buying and using paying for goods and services in Bitcoin is going to have a giant step forward. We're at a really critical point in history where we're all going to witness the birth of a new economy. The Bitcoin economy, the Bitcoin social layer exists in some facet right now, but it doesn't exist at scale. We're going to see it ramp up in terms of scale phenomenally in a very very short period of time. So if you're just a user, if you're just an individual, go sign up for Orange Pill app. But if you have a brick and mortar business, by all means, like register that brick and mortar business because we'll help drive Bitcoiners towards your local business. And on that same note, too, I think that I'm so excited about the ability for plebs, like people on Orange Pill app, to go Orange Pill their local business, whether it's the local barber or the local taco shop or whatever it happens to be. They can go in and they can open Orange Pill app and they can say to their barber, like, hey, if you start accepting Bitcoin, look at there's 30 Bitcoiners in this area. If you accept Bitcoin, most of those people are going to come to you because they like to support Bitcoiners. And so that's one more merchant adopting Bitcoin because of this like social pressure we're going to be able to apply to people in a very positive way. It's like, hey, do you want more customers? And oh, by the way, you've been hearing on TV about Bitcoin's price going up. Well, hey, don't worry about it. Don't even buy Bitcoin. Just sell your goods and services for Bitcoin and acquire Bitcoin that way. We're going to be giving people a whole new route of acquiring KYC free Bitcoin in this next bull run. So I think that if anybody in here's, I'm sure everybody's bullish because the price is up today. But if you were sitting here thinking, I'm only bullish on Bitcoin because the price is up, no, 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 no. We're missing, like, there's so many reasons to be bullish. And a lot of it is because there's building going on. That means a sustained bull market. That means not just the excitement around BlackRock and new investment coming in. That means the economy is being built. So very, very exciting stuff. So Flo, I waxed poetic on the Bitcoin social layer there for a minute because that's all I'm thinking about. That's all I've been writing about. Did you have any two sats to give on what I was just talking about, or any other thoughts? Wanted to leave it open to you. We're closing in on the hour, so I'm gonna want to shut it down here in a minute or two. I took enough of your time up, but yeah, any other thoughts there?
No, I just love what you said. Like it's so important. And I was thinking about when the last time I was on a trip for these Bitcoin conferences, we were thinking about Bitcoin all the time, and we were like very happy to join these conferences and to show the art and whatever. And we all wanted to do, we all what we wanted to do was to find places where we could spend some sats and like. We were asking around, like, do you know where can I spend sats in Berlin or in Amsterdam or whatever? So I think this new feature you're working on in Orange Pill app, it's going to be amazing. Um, and so much fun, not just for the daily use, but for what I'm saying, like in my country, we don't have much places to spend sats. Like there's like one restaurant, one, I don't know. But for me, it's like this idea of traveling to a new place. I always want to, because I don't have it here. We want to find these places and try it out, and yeah, get those sats flowing. So it's nah, it's really really nice job and amazing, and I can't wait to see what happens next.
George is in the audience. I tried inviting George up to speak, but I don't know if if it what the invite wasn't going through. George, if you want to jump on stage here for a minute, by all means, just please request to speak. I'd love to have you up here. If for those of you guys who don't know, Love is Bitcoin is George is the head of that. So yeah, just always love hearing from other people building Bitcoin, promoting Bitcoin, getting the word out there. Sweet. George did come on stage. George, how's it going, man?
Hello. Hi. Can you hear me, Ren? Right?
Hey, thanks for.
Mm,
Yeah, I hear you. I hear you loud and clear. Thanks for coming on. What do you have any?
nice.
What's your two
What
sats
do
on
you
all of
need
this?
before? Hi?
I just I want you to answer what everybody's been wanting to know. And I
What?
want you to figure out what everybody wants. No, I'm just, I'm just kidding. I was just leaving it open, man. We're about to shut this down. We were talking to Flo about building Bitcoin businesses. We were talking about everything that's wrong with fiat. We covered a few different topics. But I was just wondering what's on your mind today. What kind of things are you thinking about? What are you working on today?
I'm sorry, but I just tuned in, so I will probably listen to the recording again because Flo didn't invite me to this. I just happened to see the, the space. But yeah, feel free to ask me something. What are my thoughts about what specifically?
Well, I'll kick it back to what we were talking about at the beginning. We were talking about the things that are wrong with the fiat social layer. So the fiat social layer isn't just fiat currency; it's kind of everything that comes along with the bad incentives of fiat.
Mm.
And you know, you could take that in a bunch of different directions. But what do you think is the worst thing about the fiat social layer? And take that in whatever direction you want to go.
The worst thing, look, honestly, I've written this in an article somewhere. When you get orange pilled, it's basically a culture shock, right? I think we've all experienced this in some form or another. You start seeing things, you call everything a scam. Okay, that might be extreme. Not everything is a scam, but you start seeing things quite differently. And for example, we can call this like orange tinted glasses, right? So watching everything with orange tinted glasses. And you start seeing the things that don't make sense in the fiat world. You start seeing the consumerism. People getting a loan just to go to a frivolous vacation or to get a loan to go in debt, basically, to get married instead of investing in something that would actually help their marriage. That's something that popped into mind. Um, it shapes the way you see the day-to-day life. And because I was just writing something about that, I remember a line from Saifeddin. He said Bitcoin will teach the entire world about opportunity cost. So obviously, we all know the whole time preference thing. I believe that Bitcoin really shapes your time preference. It lowers it. If someone doesn't know what that means, it means you think about the future rather than the immediate present and what you need right now. So that shapes your actions. It shapes the decisions that you make. And from a point forward, it shapes even the relationships that you have. For example, I'm also working with Flo as well, and we've had an amazing partnership and cooperation for 6 months now. And I it does affect, Bitcoin does affect the way that we think about some things, and that's why we're so in sync. That's the same with a boss, you could say, and an employee, or at least a freelancer. So in other situations, yes, it does change your daily spending habits. You try not to spend as much, especially now that Bitcoin is rallying, it's going up. Every euro, I'm in Greece, so we have euro. Every euro is valuable. Every corner that you can save away, and not spend it on something stupid, that's quite important. One of my favorite websites is the Bitcoin or Shit one, bitcoinorshit.com, where you can go in there and watch something 8 years ago or whatever. And if you bought, I don't know, it was some mobile gaming machine, I don't remember which one. You could have had like $150,000 if you didn't buy something else, that was Beats by Dre, the headphones. You could have had like 200,000. Something else, you could have had like 10 million. So that's an awesome way to really drive the opportunity cost. That doesn't mean that we have to go to the other extreme and not buy anything, right? I'm selling things, you're selling things, Brian. We are all selling things, especially in this space. But the point is to not to waste too much on frivolous stuff. Some might call some Bitcoin stuff frivolous stuff, but I don't agree with that, because I think the Bitcoin businesses and the relationships that we're creating, all of us together, we are all focused on providing a good customer experience, on quality products, on not making, for example, we had Black Friday. Some Walmart was accused of pumping the prices just to make fake discounts or whatever. I know that none of the Bitcoin shops did that. They had a modest 10%, 20% sale during the Black Friday deals, because that was the profit margin that they could shave off for a limited amount of time, right? So it's not the fiat way of thinking, where you pump the price just so you can create a huge discount and basically trick your customer. It's not about that. So yeah, what else, Brian? I can talk about plenty of stuff, but you were winding
Yeah.
down the space from what I gathered.
Man, it would have been great. We got to do another one of these where we get you on, because no, that was phenomenal. Yeah, you said something in there that oh man, I want to circle back to. I'm gonna remember it like 2 minutes after we get off. But no, lots of great stuff there. And yeah, what? So real quick, we'll end on this. I'll give one last word to Flo as well, but we'll end on this for you, George. What makes Flo so special? Why do you like working with her? What makes her such an exceptional person?
Oh, okay. Now we're giving out business secrets. Okay, let's think about that. Well, look, we are in constant communication, which is a bit hard because we're in different time zones. So just we have a chat and we go back and forth together. Basically, brainstorming constantly. I see something that I like. I send it to her. I see something that I don't like. So it's a constant back and forth. We're on the same page, and we keep trying to promote our partners and our business associates and our sponsors and memes. We do a lot of memes. We create so many memes. Like it's a daily thing. That's basically what I love. But I want to hear
Memes
about
are
Flo. What does
important.
she like? Yeah,
Yeah, what do you like about George, Flo? I'm gonna make you guys just dote on each other here.
What I like the most is that George is really, really very creative. Like how can someone have so many ideas all the time? That's really amazing, and I also really like that I can learn a lot from him. He has a lot of experience, and he's not. I don't know what's the word like, but he's open to share his experience, and he's always like, if he sees something that I don't know, maybe he didn't like or whatever, he's open to talk it out with me. So I feel like I'm learning, and I feel like I can do a better job because he says it in the moment, so it's not a problem. And yeah, as you said, George, like I really appreciate the communication that makes the job so much fun, and yeah, like kind of light.
Well, very cool. And yeah, the
nice.
the memes the memes are incredibly important. I think you guys do a great job of keeping the memes coming. I'd mentioned earlier, George, that I'm in the process of writing my next book, and it's called the Bitcoin social layer. So that's why we're talking about the fiat social layer a little bit earlier. Um,
Mm.
but I'm right now, the chapter I'm writing is a deep dive on propaganda, and then the chapter following that is kind of like how do you unwind the propaganda. And so the title of that next chapter
No, with
is
more propaganda. So sorry that I'm bugging in, but it's with more propaganda,
no,
which
it's
is
it.
memes. It's meme warfare.
it
It's
that's that
flooding the
you're
space with better propaganda, basically.
You're absolutely right. You hit the punchline. So that the next chapter, I asked Nico from Simply Bitcoin if I could use this as the chapter title, but it's called "Tweets Are the Bullets and Memes Are the Artillery," and so that's the warfare that we're waging is a meme warfare, is a propaganda warfare. You're right. I mean, it is. That's you can write a book or you can write an article, and you can help change people's hearts and minds, or you can just really nail it with a meme and probably change even more hearts and minds. So all of these things are useful, but memes are probably the reason why Bitcoin is going to win. The fiat social layer has not effectively learned to use memes. They still use legacy media, which is an effective tactic, but memes are going to subvert that, and the Bitcoiner propaganda layers is gonna be more powerful. But yeah, we always think of propaganda as a negative thing, but propaganda is simply a tool to convey a message, and so that message can be full of truth or it can be full of lies, and so we're advocating for a message full of truth. Wonderful. I mean, this has been a great conversation, Flo. I want to give you the last word. You're my guest today. What do you want to share about the companies you work with? You want to drop any links or websites, or how do we support you in those companies?
Thank you so much for having me. I have so much fun talking to you. Yes, please go, of course, to the site of for Bitcoin. There's this amazing bundle right now you can find where you will have panties, or like the boxers books. There are three options, and also you receive like a QR code with what you buy, and you can win some Bitcoin back. So it's really fun, and it's an amazing gift now that they're holidays. So you can go and check it out. And of course, to follow Love is Bitcoin, where we have like so much fun. We are always spreading new Bitcoin companies, and we are like, well, doing the memes with George.
Right. That's how we're going to win the wars, because you guys have the meme factory going on. So keep up the good work. We love that you guys are supporting Bitcoin businesses. That's a major passion of mine. I think that's maybe the biggest idea in Bitcoin. Um, Now that Satoshi has created Bitcoin, and there are developers working on fine tuning things for optimizing for adoption, those of us who are going to build the Bitcoin, the art side, the propaganda side, whatever you want to call it, that is a massive undertaking. And it's funny because I haven't met either one of you in person, but we're coworkers in this thing of building in Bitcoin, and none of it's through coercion, like Flo was talking about. No one put a gun to our head and said you guys need to work together. Because of freely associating people with aligned incentives, we're co-workers in this promotion of a Bitcoin standard, a Bitcoin social layer, leading to hyper Bitcoinization. So, and that doesn't just go for those on the panel. That goes for everybody in the audience. Anybody that retweets and shares the Bitcoin message, that is playing a role. But perhaps one of the biggest things that we can do is going and spending just a few sats with Bitcoin businesses this week. So I challenge you, if you haven't spent Bitcoin before, try to make that. You have 11 days left to spend Bitcoin. Try to find somewhere where you can spend some Bitcoin. Go ahead and replace it. You know, turn around and turn your fiat into, if you spend $20 worth of Bitcoin, go ahead and take $20 and buy Bitcoin with it again. That's fine. But helping stimulate those Bitcoin businesses, stimulating that Bitcoin economy is an investment in your future. If you think that a Bitcoin standard is going to benefit your children and your children's children, perhaps the best investment you can make is spending some of that Bitcoin, spending some of those sats. And with having said that, we're going to kick this out. Merry Christmas to everybody. Happy holidays, whatever you guys are celebrating. The New Year's coming up. If you guys are not doing anything this Friday, December 22nd, please jump on the BTC Sessions live stream. It's at 2 p.m. Pacific time. I'm going to be on the first panel. We're actually talking about Bitcoin, the Bitcoin parallel economy. I get to be on that panel with Joe Hall and I think American Hodl or a couple other people, pretty cool Bitcoiners that we get to talk with about this exact topic. So thank you all for helping prep me and get me ready for that for this Friday. And if I don't talk to you guys, Merry Christmas, and we'll see you all soon.